Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for your daily dose of the RARs, where I sit here and I scream about the stupidity of the technology industry so I can get some of that dirty YouTube money to be able to fund free to the end users who use your hands-on technology education in Durham, North Carolina. Something called Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We are having a class in a couple of days on extending AI capabilities with REST APIs. I think that's what the class is called. Anyways, these are in-person classes. You just sign up, you show up, you come, you learn. That is why I do these videos, to pay for those particular classes. Anyway, so in the news today is I guess next you're going to tell me the water is wet. I think this is kind of an interesting story, just simply because this is the type of thing that I've been screaming about for years and years and years and years. And of course, it is not real. It is not real when a geek who's been doing technology for 30 years is in his basement screaming into a camera. It only becomes real when somebody writes about it on the internet. So yes, I've been talking about the dangers of VPNs in general for a long time, right? One of the things that I've talked about is that if I had the funding of an intelligence agency, what I would do is I would go out there and I would create the world's best free VPN. And then I would create the world's worst free VPN, and then I create a couple in the middle. Because what people will say, like some people will be like, well, I want to use the best free VPN. And they would go and use the best free VPN, and then I would scrape all of their data. But then some people be like, oh, no. If this is the world's best free VPN, remember, if you're not the customer, you're the product. I'm not going to trust that. I'm going to use one of these lower quality VPN services. And then I would scrape all of their data too. Right? You create a tiered intelligence apparatus where people select their particular quality of having all of their data scraped. So anyways, I've been screaming about this for a long time just because it's one of those complete idiotic things I see in the technology world. I see the kids out there and they're like, Eli, right on the VPN's website, it says it's a non-logging VPN. I was like, oh, wow. Does it say that? I'm so sorry. Look, they wrote it in HTML. They wrapped it in P tags, Eli. Obviously, it's true. So anyways, one of the things to remember, with any systems, what do I say? What does Eli, the computer guy, say? Distrust, verify, stay suspicious. That is what you should always do. Don't trust anybody at any time for any reason. It's a better way of doing technology. So this is coming up from a report from CNET. CNET is talking about it, so it's now true. Nearly 2/3 of free VPNs put your data at risk, study says. What to know? Oh my golly, only 2/3 of free VPNs put your data at risk. I'm actually shocked it is so low. And the big thing to understand with VPNs are systems like anything else, and you can build your systems in oh so many ways, right? And you can have the most secure VPN in the world, right? No, it is secure. We audit our VPN. We do everything perfectly. But if the pipe going out from your VPN system, right, basically has a big man-in-the-middle server, your VPN system, the VPN server system you're connecting to, could be the most secure in the world. But if all the traffic coming out of that VPN server gets routed through a man-in-the-middle attack, you're still going to have bunches and bunches of issues. So anyways, just something to remember. Distrust, verify, stay suspicious, and yeah, assume that the NSA is running all of the free VPN servers. In a study of over 800 no-cost, that's a lot, Holy crap, that's a lot. In a study of over 800 no-cost virtual private networks, a cybersecurity team found that nearly 2/3 relied on vulnerable coding and put consumers' data and privacy at risk. The investigation by Zimperium zLabs, a mobile security company, looked at VPNs for both Android and iOS and found that hundreds offered no real privacy, required risky permissions, leaked personal data, and used outdated and vulnerable code. Zimperium zLabs said these issues are very problematic for companies with bring your own device policies. I do think this is kind of an interesting thing, again, with the whole modern world, where all of these companies want you to use your own devices to do the company work. And this is an amazing thing, right? Back in 2000, right, when I started officially in the IT world, right, the companies had to buy computers for everybody, right? They bought the laptop computer. They bought anything else. It was owned by the company, and that created so much stupidity, especially with traveling salespeople. Telling traveling salespeople they can't put Napster on the corporate fucking systems was its own interesting arguments. But basically what these companies realize is, look, that costs us money, right? Buying a laptop for our employees is $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever else. There's depreciation costs, there's taxes, there's all of these other things. What if we have our employees basically use their own computers that they already own? And you really have to think about this for corporations, right? If you have a company, let's say 1,000 people, and they all start using their own computers. Imagine a computer, let's say, costs about $1,000. That is $1 million in savings. Getting them to use your computer is $1 million in savings at a minimum for that company. And then think about if there's, again, additional wear and tear on the computer. Think about if the computer breaks or anything else, who's responsible for it, and the whole 9 yards. But the issue that you run into is as soon as you start allowing your employees to use their own devices, you have a world of security issues. It's interesting, right? Having done support in the enterprise world and having done support when I had my own little IT company, oh my golly, it is insane. It is insane what 14-year-old kids do to their parents' computers. Well, it's not really insane. It's probably what all 14-year-old kids would do with their parents' computers if they had access to them. But think about this, right? You get a 14-year-old kid, they start using their parents' computer to go look at porn, to start downloading stuff, to start installing the latest Adobe product, completely free. Right? And now all of a sudden, that computer is just infected and infested with God knows what. And you're going to allow that. You are going to allow that onto your corporate network. Not what I would consider the smartest thing in the world. But the other thing that comes up, again, with things like VPN services and all that, is if you allow your employees to use their own VPN services to connect to whatever else, basically you don't know how secure those VPN services are, right? So if you spin up with Windows, at least it used to be called, a routing and remote access server, that was their VPN service, right? At least if you're having your employees go through your VPN server, one, you're using Microsoft's VPN services, right? So that's at least, it's going to be as secure as Microsoft ever is. It's going to be going through your systems so you can try to protect stuff and whatever else. Now, the interesting thing that comes up is what happens if your employees start using their own VPN services, and they don't want to spend $20. They don't want to spend $10 a month, right? You give them a $10 a month credit. You give them $10. Here is $10 a month to buy a VPN service. And you know what your employees are going to do? They're going to go out and buy themselves a Frappuccino and then use a free VPN service. Because that's the shit employees do. Live fucking experience. Here's the money to pay for the thing that you need to do your job. Why don't you have the thing that you need to do your job that I paid you money for? Well, what you have to understand is it was a Frappuccino. So anyways, right? So imagine, again, your employees are using Salesforce. Your employees are using CRM solutions. Your employees are using God knows what, and that is going through God knows what quality of VPN service. Quote, these mobile VPN apps, even popular ones, can become the weakest link in an organization's security posture. Absolutely true. Exposing sensitive business data to unnecessary risk. Absolutely true. Zimperium zLabs found that some problematic VPNs could capture screenshots of the user interface. Jesus Christ. I sit here, I rant and I rave about how bad I think it is. And then we realize it's so much worse. So much. What do you mean they can take screenshots? What? Taking images of what you see on your screen that could include sensitive emails, data, and photos. Yep. The investigation also found that some VPNs were vulnerable to insecure activity launch, meaning attackers could bypass the device's security checks. This could leave the system open to phishing, disable encryption, or make it look like a VPN is active when it's actually not. The Zimperium report also identified permission abuse issues. Granting too much permission can allow bad actors to do things such as add or remove accounts, change passwords, or gain access to other services without passwords. Another problem was VPN transparency. Several VPN apps for iOS did not comply with Apple's requirements that developers must state how customer data will be used and justify how and why they're accessing sensitive data. This is the other interesting thing, again, with the whole idea of VPNs or any security services documenting what they do. One, do they actually document what the hell they do? And then two, even if they do, how do you audit that fact? We had Kyle Hensloven on. He is the CEO of Huntress, right? And they just went through a whole crap show because a lot of their customers literally had no idea how their security services functioned, right? They basically they did a blog post talking about this whole issue that transpired. Well, the curious thing about them is that they're a managed, basically, systems operation center. So the idea is you download Huntress's software, and not only does it do automatic checks and all that kind of thing, but the concept is that, and this is what they sell. If you read what is on the web page, this is what they sell, is that this also connects back to actual humans so that they can make decisions about how to secure your environment and the whole nine yards. The humans are able to see what is on your computer. Humans can see your activity monitor. Humans can see the services and all that kind of stuff running and actually be able to take action. And that's one of their things is, right, instead of just simply having some kind of automated system do everything, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, this has the extra bonus of having human beings on the other side. Well, the funny thing was, a lot of their customers literally didn't realize human beings were able to see inside their systems. You know, basically these people that were paying Huntress lots of money every month literally had not read the front page of their website, right? So anyways, so that's a big thing to be thinking about with any of these security services is what do they actually do? What do they actually do? Zimperium found that 25% of the VPN apps it examined did not include valid privacy manifests. As a result, customers could be at risk of profiling, a re-identification, or monetization. So yeah, that's basically the thing here. Talking about 2/3 of free VPN services put your data at risk. No crap, Sherlock. No crap, Sherlock. Somebody's been in his basement screaming about this stuff for years and years and years and years. Do remember this. Whenever you're connecting to anybody else's system, you have no idea what they're actually doing with that data. Whether it's a VPN service, or now that I'm doing classes, again, the coding classes for silicondojo.com, or as an API service, right? Or as an AI service, or as any of these things, right? You put data in, you get a result back, but you don't know what additional things transpired, right? What additional information was being collected, even if it's not necessarily for nefarious purposes. Again, the whole concept of metadata, one of the things we've learned with the NSA back about 15 years ago when Edward Snowden was a whistleblower, is they were collecting a whole bunch of metadata. And for many of us, we were like, metadata, what does it matter? And then you realize, holy crap, there's a lot of information metadata, right? So there's the data, so there's the email or the text message or whatever else, and then there's the metadata. And the metadata is for things like routing and all those additional headers and things that go along whenever you send a message. And the amazing part is, a lot of us didn't really think about how much data is actually in that header, in that metadata. And then you didn't think about what happens when that gets collected at scale and what happens when that gets whatever, measured or whatever at scale, and you realize, wow, even metadata can be give a tremendous amount of information to folks. So it is kind of an interesting thing to be thinking about. So there you go with free VPN services. I don't know, if you are using a disposable computer and you want to watch porn in a state that now has, identification laws, maybe a free VPN service, would be okay. Otherwise, I would be very, very, very cautious. Do think about this with VPN services is they should cost a decent amount of money to run in the modern world with so many people with gigabit internet connections and all that kind of thing. If you're going to be running through a VPN service, even as a free VPN service, you want a quality there. And so one of the things to think about is in order for these services to have enough bandwidth to be able to provide decent services to their users, that's going to cost an amount of money every month. Maybe at the low end, if you really go really cheap, maybe $250. You might, again, a pretty crappy little box to run the VPN services, maybe a gig connection on that. Maybe you could do that for about $250 a month. But realistically, to actually run one of these free VPN services, you're talking about thousands of dollars a month. And again, just think about this for a second, right? So it costs thousands of dollars a month at a minimum to run these VPN services. And they're free. So where is the value proposition there? Why is somebody slaving away to provide you VPN services? Do you really think it's because they're the Mother Teresa of the Silicon world? Anyways, something to think about. Something to think about and something to ponder. What do you think about 2/3 of free VPN services putting your data at risk? What do you think about 2/3 of paid VPN services also probably putting your data at risk? What do you think about the fact you can't trust any of these SOBs? So let's stop pretending. I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing. Call me a dumbass. Just be a real Lutnick and put a strong American comment down there in the comment section. Do remember I do these videos in order to support Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. Free to the end user, hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do in Durham, North Carolina. We're having a class on extending AI capabilities with REST APIs. That's the name of it. We're having that class on Wednesday, 2 days from when I am filming this. We're going to have another class on Moondream for AI computer vision coming up on December 17th, something like that. We have more and more classes. If you're interested, go to silicondojo.com. If you do want to support free end user classes, because they are not actually free, that's why I'm here, there's a donor box link down below. And with that, see y'all later.